Problem I have with what you said, Cheeky, is that I think when it benefits black people, you don't have a culture. When it benefits you, you do have a culture, and you can't keep flip flopping. Here's why: because I think me and Chaotic have both been on.
You speaking in general?
Hold on. Yeah, me and Chaotic have both been on record saying that Black American people are actually the most influential Black people in the world, which means that people copy your culture. All right, the way you talk, the way you dress, hip hop is a culture. That's the term used to describe hip hop. So you do have a culture. It's just that when the way it trickles down to, well, a subculture got to come from a culture. You said it,
right?
Not me.
But again, you keep saying. So here's the thing about culture: there's usually some form of homogenous being, right? If I ask you what it means to be, well, I can't ask you. You're Nigerian, and I can't ask Chaotic Truth because y'all Nigerian. So let me ask somebody black. What does it mean to be black?
Kyle, do you want to answer that?
I mean, yeah, and I agree.
Oh, wait, no, Chaotic. No, Chaotic. You've already said you're Nigerian. No. Chaotic. No.
Let Kyle answer. He had something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Chiki's saying. I mean, in my opinion, I would say that it's tough to identify what Black culture is in America, because I think that, Black culture isn't, like hip hop culture, beforehand. I think Black culture is way bigger than that. So I just think that the thing that's imitated is hip hop culture. It's not necessarily Black culture, because I think when someone was speaking earlier about when I think it was Raul, when he was speaking about how white girls might change the way they talk when they're around a bunch of Black people. Well, that imitation, they're talking hip hop talk. They're not talking Black culture, because the idea that this is how all Black people sound, is really not the best image of Black culture overall. So I would just agree with Cheeky on that. I don't think that there's, any kind of identifiable Black culture that you could pinpoint in America. I think that hip hop culture is not synonymous with Black culture. Those two things are not equal to me.
Can I
consider the fact that hip hop was created by Puerto Ricans, right? It's like people added to hip hop.
Puerto Ricans.
Like,
if you know hip hop, if you know hip hop was both created by Black and Puerto Rican, right? A lot of the drums that they use is the same stuff you hear in different parts of Hispanic music. Is in Africa, right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's easy for somebody, right? It's easy for somebody that comes from a cultural background that's already concrete and made to say, hey, this is what I want, or this is what you guys should do. And I understand that. That's not, oh, you got to go see Robinson.
I mean, let's make this, let's do it this way. Do Black people have their own food? Their own, the way they cook food?
Soul food?
No.
They do.
Okay, we have fried food, but that's not necessarily a cultural cuisine that's unique to Black people. Even that's kind of like, that's more Southern culture.
Y'all are being real disingenuous, because look at it this way: jollof rice. When you look at rice across the world, it's still the most people's main dish is rice and some type of meat. All right, so it's like Nigerian fried rice and the arroz con pollo that be making in Panama use a lot of the same ingredients, right? So it's like, all right, yes, y'all do have your own style of food.
Okay,
right?
so let's get to how about this? Let's add, I'm gonna ask the more important question, the more pertinent ones. Do we have our own religion? Do we have our own set of beliefs?
Hold on.
I mean, but you're asking about music.
Black people have their own style.
Huh?
Black people have their own style. Do Black people have their own brands? They do. And do Black people have their own music?
Own style of what? What are you saying? Religion?
Fashion. Do you have your own style in the way you wear clothes, or clothes that were made popular by Black people? Yes, you do. So therefore,
you're talking about things that don't really impact the overall being. Do we have our own religion,
food, music, and style?
And what is that? And what does that have to do with standards? What does that have to do with morals?
What does that have to do with
ethics, beliefs? Like, that's the main part of a human being, and that's how you determine whether or not you're going to be successful.
Plus, I'm
sorry, Trigger Mike. Whenever I hear Nigerians speak about their culture, they typically aren't talking about their what they're dressed like or their jollof rice. They're talking about the things that are established, like their morals, their ethics, their behavior, their mannerisms, their respect for their elders. You establish that through their culture. That's concrete. I'm not talking about
Well,
minuscule things like dancing or hip hop or
yeah,
like things
well,
that matter.
we don't disagree. And I remember, if you remember, I said one of the reasons why I feel like people are not accepting of Black Americans is because what's popular in the mainstream is the disrespect. Right. So it's not that there aren't any values, because like I read history, and American history, Black people were the most squared away at some point. We were the most married at some point. The most people least likely to have daughters that had babies out of wedlock at some point. So Black people once had these values. Now it's pushed that they don't practice these values at all. They practice disrespect. If I was to use the phrase respect isn't given, it's earned, who do you think said that? If I give you one race of person you think whose mouth that came out of, that's a Black person. Disrespect is now the norm, and that's what's promoted and taught on down. So it's not like you didn't have it. You just, like, Black people in general just chose to ignore it and declassify that as a norm in Black culture.
So
I do have a question.
Hey, pass down culture. Okay, that's fine.
I do have a
if that's-
question. I know you guys are getting really heavy into the culture, but I kind of wanted to make it more about dating.
Cool.
Okay, that's fine.
So I do have a question. We skipped over question 2 because we kind of hopped over it to question 3. I wanted to know, do you notice a difference in how other races approach you, flirt with you, interact with you versus your own? I asked this question because I noticed a difference. I wanted to know. I don't know where my girls went.
So I do. So I think I'm on record saying that we all know that every ethnic group of man prefers, either intrinsically, like even if subconsciously or not, whether they know it, they prefer their own ethnic group, their own ethnic counterpart of women. One of the things I think gets misconstrued about Black men, especially when they date out, is that women aren't realizing that in other cultures, well, I'm really just talking about white girls and some Hispanic women, they are way more forward. Like they steal. Yeah, they are way more forward. So there have been nights, in college.
You said white women or
white women, Hispanic women. It's almost like when they see what they want, or they're like, I've been asked, do you want to come home? That type of stuff. Like, let me buy you a drink. Can you buy me a drink? Like, they stand in front of your face before you can get to the Black woman you was looking at all night. Because Black women will just stare at you all night. But those women kind of cut in and say, I want that. Let me go get it. Because I don't know if
they'll present themselves to you.
Exactly.
Like,
so when women are saying, oh, Black men just like white women, and I say a lot of Black men were distracted by white women. And they were just distracted. While you were looking at that Black woman all night, that white girl was like, hey, sexy, how you doing? My name's Kelly. Oh, sorry, not there. You chose a predominantly white name. But, my name's Nicole. I dated 2 white girls named Nicole. They will just distract the Black man. And I do believe that they're a lot more promiscuous up front. Like I dealt with that in high school. They will get down to it, like what they're looking for and all of that, which is distracting. Mission over for the night, right? So you're just gonna go home with her. So I do believe that's one of the things going on.
And then after that, when you start realizing, like Chaotica say, that they're so pleasant and they just are wonderful and they are just the apple of all of our eyes. After you done already got some, now you wake up, turn out they're actually pleasant to be around, and that's how that goes. So I don't think it's anything more than that sometimes for a lot of people.
Exactly.
Okay, can I say something? And then Raul Duke, I want to know how they are, what you notice. I have a question for, I guess this is mostly for the Black men. It's more of a why, because I've noticed with other races, because I do get hit on by all races, right? But I've noticed that my compliments from other races are, you're so gorgeous, you're stunning, you're so beautiful. But then with Black men, I'll get the, yeah, you're right, you're kind of cute or whatever. Why? Why does that happen? I've asked a lot of Black guys this question, but like, they be like, why?
Do y'all also want to bring it? Y'all realize that in the realm of preference, Black men have like a whole way larger spectrum than every other race of man. women are just like, like Raul said, with white women or, Caucasian women in general, they might go by hair color, but that's it. Black men have a whole spectrum: light, caramel, dark, crunchy black, purple, natural hair. We have a whole spectrum to go through on preference. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think that's talked about a lot. So that's why you might be getting that, because it's just different. It's a long spectrum of black women.